Hey, mamas. I want to read you a quote from one of our coaching clients. I can say from one side of the coaching program to the other, I was finding joy, even as a single mom who's still being actively sued. You're like a new life doula, helping people into their new life. Wow. No one needs to tell you that there's a lot to deal with during divorce, usually more than you can even imagine. It's because life doesn't stop the moment you begin the process. In between court appearances, meetings with your lawyers, and mountains of paperwork, big feelings arise. Kids ask questions and need your attention. You've got to try to keep your you-know-what together, and there's a potential for a lot to fall through the cracks. But it doesn't have to be that way. This mama's story exemplifies that. Barbara, a physician and a self-made success story, first came to us in, let's just say, an angry place. And truth be told, she was also embroiled in one of the most frustrating court battles that I've seen. The courts were backlogged and appearances were set for months apart. There was endless fighting and mounting legal bills, and she was getting lost in the shuffle of the system. This lady harnessed the power of her pain. She leaned in and kept leaning in until life began to heal and shift beneath her feet. And her journey is proof of what is possible not only for her, but for you too. And spoiler alert, her life opened in ways she couldn't have imagined as a result, with a new partner, new baby, blended family, and a beautiful new life chapter. That's the power of healing and seizing the opportunity to see the big picture in real time. We shared something sacred in this journey, and I hope that this inspires you to glean hope in your own story. Hi there, mamas. Welcome to the Intuitive Divorce Podcast. I'm Kristen Noel, certified divorce coach and creator of the Best Self Intuitive Divorce, a game-changing program that transforms the experience and outcomes of divorce, one mother at a time. I call it Divorcing Differently. I'm here each week bringing you a quick message to support, inspire, and empower you to achieve the outcomes you want for yourself and your kids. So let's dive into today's episode.
Well, hello, my friend. I am so delighted to sit down with this lady, this powerhouse, this force not to be reckoned with. Just as a little background to set the stage, Barbara, a physician and a self-made success story, first came to us in, let's just say, an angry place. And truth be told, she was also embroiled in one of the worst court battles that I've seen. Fairness and justice were not exactly the dominant theme in her case. The courts were still backlogged, trying to catch up after the pandemic. Appearances were set for months apart. There was a lot of endless fighting and mounting legal bills, and getting lost in the shuffle of the system. But aside from those details, and all that she had to hold together for everyone, her small child, her work, and herself, there was a lot of pain beneath that anger. Life doesn't stop because you're getting a divorce. Barbara had a little boy to consider and her own well-being. Divorces eventually come to an end, but how you get yourself through it informs everything. And while much is out of your control, you get to decide the price you are willing to pay with everything else. And this is what I want to talk about today with this beautiful mama. First off, Barbara, I want to commend you for how you showed up week after week, sometimes from work in your scrubs, sometimes seething, and other times crying. Can you take us back to that moment and share where you were emotionally? There may be another mama out there listening to this who will relate and needs to know that she is not alone.
That's a really good way to sum up the way I would show up. I was either seething, like exploding out of my skin, or crying, or, going from one to the other as we unearthed what was underneath the anger. And yeah, it was wonderful to have this kind of space to come individually with you and then with the group to tackle some of those reasons why I might be feeling that way that given day. And it was really action oriented. So it was really helpful because I could just take, something that was going on at court and, you'd have a tidbit of experience from your own journey or from something, somebody else has been through who you helped. And, you're not my lawyer, you're not my financial advisor, but it was really nice to have that like real person perspective and the coach perspective on some of those things. Because there's just so many things that fall through the cracks if you are just working with those specific professionals. Even with a therapist, I mean, the coach really has like a really important role. And that was my experience.
I'm just so glad you found us. I mean, I think this is the biggest issue. A divorce, there's so much that's going on, and it's going on in real time all the time, not just the court dates, not just the appointments with your lawyers. It's like a lot of life, a lot of feelings. It's just a lot to deal with, and a lot falls through the cracks. And, when someone is first faced with a divorce, whether they've initiated it or it's been like dumped on them, they initially think like, I need a lawyer, I need a financial advisor. And they don't necessarily think about, oh, I need to take care of my well-being. I need to like figure out how am I going to get myself through this, my self-care. The drum that I'm always beating is that the way in which we get ourselves, we take care of ourselves in the divorce is directly going to impact the outcomes and the experience and how you're going to relate to your kids. You're going to go home at night and it's like, you may have been really triggered by something that happened during the day, but it's like, but you still got to get dinner on the table and you still have to deal with your kid. I'm glad you brought this in about the lawyer and the financial advisor, because I think most people really understand that they need those professionals. But when did you realize I need some help and I want some help just getting myself through this, taking care of myself, nurturing, my well-being?
Yeah, I think when you're getting into the thick of it, like it didn't happen right away for me as the divorce got rolling. It was like it developed as there were more subpoenas and more, 30 more documents were requested and like all these things are happening. It's kind of like this choking, drowning feeling. And, like sometimes rage, like, oh, my ex brought a new partner in to live where he's squatting in my apartment building that we owned together. So stuff like that would happen. And I would have to, like, as you said, keep going through my day, knowing that that was happening, knowing that my child is being taken care of. This new person is being used as a babysitter and I don't know if they're safe. So all of these things were really hard. And I came to a slow realization about coaching because I was listening to a lot of divorce podcasts. And I don't recall which one I heard you on, but you were a guest on one of the podcasts. I had heard about physician coaching before, like there are a lot of physician coaches. And so I had heard about life coaching. And, I slowly came to the realization, I was just realizing I needed one. And it just took a little bit of time for that to settle in. Like, oh, yeah, I really do need one. Like you'll hear this in all the podcasts. You can't use your lawyer as a therapist. Like mine was a female lawyer who is in, close to my demographic. And I probably would be friends with her, if she wasn't so busy. And we actually like each other, but I cannot do that at $400 an hour. Like I can't use her as a therapist. There were things she needed to know, but there were other things where I could clearly sense like, okay, I just feel myself falling through the cracks. Like I just have rage. I want to send this like really bad text message and I'm going to text it to Kristen instead. Like, and I would talk about how to deal with those moments where you feel yourself falling through the cracks, like you said, because it's really important when you fall through those cracks, that can have really big ramifications. Like there were things that, they could have long-term ramifications. Like if I got a restraining order against me or something like that, because you're just like, you just don't even know what to do. And you also don't know what you don't know. So your lawyer tells you like, oh, this thing you thought was okay to do is actually could get you slapped with a restraining order. And then it seems crazy, like as a layperson, and you're just learning this stuff as you go. So, and then to be able to bring that to you, like, what do? I feel powerless. And to be able to talk about those nuts and bolts of the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought up so many good points. I mean, it's really funny because I think initially when I started doing this, I started thinking like, well, lawyers might see us as competition. And it's so the opposite because we actually really support each other and we really work together. I'm not going to be your legal counsel and they're not going to be your emotional support. And like you say, there's certain things you have to convey to them, but I don't want, like, your lawyer's going to have to say, like, okay, stick to the point, stick to the point. Like, thank you for giving me those details, but you got to let's get back on track here. I'm really careful when I say these words, but I do believe that there's so much opportunity in divorce. And it's not just about untangling from an unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship. It's really about healing. It's really about, like, okay, I don't want to save this to the other side. I want to keep living while I'm divorcing. I know, listen, this is hard. And you faced a lot of hardship. Having to be in the court system is really tough. It can be very anxiety producing and leave you feeling very vulnerable. And in some ways you are, because you're stuck, you're really at the mercy of the court and their dates and their decisions.
I was in the system for over a year, and you have no control over that. And so it was like a waiting game, and then there would be a crisis, and then more waiting. And so you do need support through that.
And the other thing is, what's really important is that you can't deny your feelings. You can't deny what was coming up. You had a lot of rage. And underneath the rage is a lot of other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Under the rage, there were other feelings. And I never felt judged for that. Like, I could bring my full rage and just tell you all, like, whether in the group or individually, how much anger was coming up for me.
Well, that's how we process, right? Our groups are often, it's like sacred space. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see the transformation that sort of happens in real time, because you know what? You can't deny, if you're feeling rage, you can't deny that you're feeling rage.
There aren't a lot of places in our society that are acceptable for that. And I would be with a group of women, when we were in group, who could kind of relate to what I was saying, even if they weren't in my same situation. They would kind of laugh, and it made me feel good that they were like, I'd say something sarcastic or, like,
there's a Barbaraism.
I mean, they would laugh like in a supportive way, and it made me feel better. It just made me feel seen. And it also, because there would be threads that they could relate to, and we would all help each other in that way.
Well, I think also for you, being so successful, being a self-made woman, when a woman feels rage, she's a bitch, as opposed to when a woman feels rage, she has something to heal. She has something to look at, and she deserves that opportunity. She deserves to
take away from the rest of society that would judge me as being just a rageful bitch, because I was 100, like, I was full to the brim. Like you said, you can't really leave the healing for after, but I will say there were a lot of moments that were just surviving. Like, I knew that, okay, the decisions and the way I handle things now will have ramifications on me and my son for years to come. But it was also just helpful, aside from that, like, heady, future vision, there was also like just getting through the day. So it was super helpful for both. Like, having a vision for a better life in the future, but also just like really surviving today intact. And I can say from one side of the coaching program to the other, I was finding joy, even as a single mom who's like still being actively sued. I found joy. Like, I could just find it in the day. And that was so lovely because I could breathe again. I was out of this. Yeah, part of it is just reminding each other, say in the group and with you individually, like, what we have let go of and what now we can breathe, because we don't have this person throwing barbs at us and little insults and all the things that were holding us down in our bad relationships.
We can heal, right? We can come back to ourselves. So that's, oh my God, that's music to my ears, because obviously divorce is tough and life can be tough at times, right? None of us is immune to life's adversity. And it really is about developing coping skills to sort of like self-regulate so you can calm down. It's like we don't necessarily have to like everything that's happening today, but I also don't need to just relinquish all my joy, because it's very easy, like, let's say you get triggered. There's an email that comes in, or a text comes in, or your kid comes back and tells you something that your ex, conveys something that your ex said or whatever. It's very easy to just kind of like get caught up in that torrent and like just fall down a dark tunnel, right? So it's so much about grace, compassion, self-compassion, space, allow the healing, allow the feeling. It's not about bypassing. It's not about pretending I'm not angry. It's not, pretending I'm not upset. It's not pretending I'm not overwhelmed or whatever. It's like living while you're in divorce.
Yeah. To your to piggyback on what you're saying, living during divorce, you're parenting during divorce and you've done this. And so has Bill. And so to have that experience backing me, I felt like you were both backing me as I was parenting through this difficult time. Because my son, I was trying to remember the specific instance, and now I remember. So my son would say something really hurtful, like, if he didn't get his way, he was 5, and he would say, like, oh, I never want to come back here again. I want to be with dad. And I remember the first time he said something like that to me, I was like pulp on the floor. It was terrible. It was the worst feeling ever. And like, you could bring that to a therapist, but I feel like you both we were able to like, okay, talk about what that means and what it doesn't mean. We were able to talk about strategies.
Do you know what I also said too? Do you remember I said
How you
good?
respond to that.
But I actually said good. You know why? Because it means he's safe to express himself with you. Because oftentimes, even children at 5 years old, when there is like, because, when we think of divorce, it's about the asset grab and the tug of war over the kids. Like, pick
Yeah.
me, pick my side, pick my team mom,
Yeah.
team dad.
Yeah. So on the surface, I would want to be chosen and I
Yeah,
would
well,
never want to say that.
and that's
But he
honest.
told me, yeah, like he can be honest with you and you're
Yeah.
his safe space. And not all the time, there were times where I like, probably wasn't the safe parent because I was just too, not present enough or had too much anger still that it was coming out at the sides. But I do think overall he did know that I was a safe place to say something like that. And he's 5. Like even adults say stuff like that. Like, I don't want to be here and blah, blah, blah.
But you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, one thing you did, and it's never going to be perfect. Okay. It's never going to be perfect. And yeah, did you maybe have some missteps or say some regrettable words? Yeah, you're human. Welcome to the human experience. Okay. Welcome to divorce. But here's the difference. You leaned in, you would bring it every week and say, like, I just did this or I said that. But you know what? You always used it as an opportunity. You used it as an opportunity to say, like, how can I do better? What can I go do to clean that up? How should I handle this? What should I say to him? And those experiences are actually, in some ways, more valuable than not happening because what you did in that process, even though he was only 5, you were validating him. You were validating him, his feelings. You were having conversations.
And starting to show him how you repair in relationships, which is something that, adults are still learning.
Yeah. And so I think that all of those experiences are really important. First of all, it's like you're learning a lot about yourself. And, as I was listening to you, I was thinking, it's so hard to go through divorce with kids. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you something. It's the greatest gift in the world because you're so hyper aware of them and you realize, like, I got to show up better. I got to do something here. Like, I want to be better. I want to be my best self because I want to be a good mom. I want to be a good me. I think having kids, while it does complicate it and also does entangle you with this person that you're divorcing, it still really helps you show up differently and be more accountable and moving through this quicker because you don't want to stay mired in this. You don't want to be this angry person forever. I don't want to be this wounded person. I want to move on with my life. And I remember we would talk about things with you, and it's like, yeah, what do you want on the other side of this? What do you want life to look and feel like? But it also can look and feel like that right here, right now. And that's not to deny the hardship of the experience and having to go to court and all the incoming missiles, but it's you never let go of your day. You never let go of your life. You never said, like, I'm just going to like crumble into a pile on the floor here.
This is it. Yeah, no, there was never that full giving up. I would say that's another benefit of having your support was having that validation through the divorce that it was the right thing because I think there are a lot of opportunities to question yourself, especially as the legal battle gets going. And you're just like, anything would be better than this. Like, maybe I should have just, borne the shitty marriage longer or, just
Mhm.
dealt with it because this is awful. Like, divorce can be awful. But having this like consciousness, this conscious relationship perspective really just validated that over and over. Like, we can hope for a better relationship with ourselves, with our children, just having this lens that, what was happening back there was not okay and it was not sustainable. And just having that validated through the process is really valuable because you can second guess yourself.
You also one time said something that really stopped me in my tracks, and I'm glad you're bringing this back into, this kind of questioning yourself, because it's very easy to question what I'm doing, or this is too hard, or this is, too
Was it
anxiety
really that
producing,
bad?
or is it really that? Yeah, exactly.
Could I have sucked it up another 20 years?
Right, right.
Deep down,
But
I knew I couldn't.
you remember you said to me, I used to feel like a piece of furniture in the house. I never forgot you saying that to me early on. And I was like, oh my God. And so I love that you bring this into the conversation because, listen, we don't take divorce lightly. Like, this is not like I'm not an advocate for divorces. I'm an advocate for healthy relationships and for, conscious coupling and people like showing up and doing their work and being their best selves, being accountable, being great parents. That doesn't mean perfection, right?
Well, being on your own can be healthier,
Right. And it also means I'm allowed to be healthy. I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to have needs, wants, and desires.
even with
It's
kids.
not, you
Yeah.
know, and that is a beautiful thing. So when you
Yeah.
stepped out of, I can no longer just be treated like a piece of furniture, and to step up and say, you know what? I'm worthy of more. I'm worthy of authentic love. I'm worthy of, first of all, partnership with myself in the sense that, you stepping up and saying, I'm worthy of more. When we actually really embody that, then it's like, when I'm reflecting back about my relationship with Bill, it's like, I didn't need to be saved. I needed to be seen,
Yeah.
right? I want to be in partnership with someone who sees me, who loves me. I'm not a piece of furniture.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's so lonely to be in a relationship and not get that. It is better to be alone. And I've experienced that after my divorce. I wanted to bring something else in. You had talked about being a safe space for your kids, and I just wanted to piggyback on that. So I know you wanted to also talk about like what life looks like after the fact. And now I'm repartnered. And in the
Shh,
course
no, shh, spoiler alert. Wait.
of
Do you want to go to dessert right now?
no, no, we don't have to. I was just
But
going
I'm
to say,
so excited.
I just wanted to tell you the part about being a safe space. I wanted to share how that has like informed my co-parenting with my new partner as we've like blended the family. Those are some of the concepts that I've learned in the program, are still helping me now.
That just makes me so happy. But it's something that I say all the time is that when we allow ourselves to start healing, what happens in this program and what happens in coaching is you really start developing skills and muscles that are not just divorce skills. It's about life. And you
Totally.
never move through life the same way again.
Mm.
You start to really have a new awareness of who I want to be, how I want to be, and what's my role in that. And what do I need to do to get to those goals?
You know what you are? You're like a new life doula. Like you help
Oh,
birth people into their new
I will take that.
existence.
I will take
Yeah.
that. New life doula. I'm going to get, that's my new title. I
Yeah.
love that.
It's kind of like a new lease on life to use that cliche, but it really felt like that throughout. And then you're, the guide.
But you know what? I love what I do so much because the same way I just was sharing that reflection of my relationship with Bill, it's the same thing in my coaching. I see your possibility through your wounds, through your pain, through your anger, through your upset, through your fear. It's like, I get to sit and witness and I see what's possible. And I know that the mamas that sign up for this program, it's not about revenge. It's not about like staying, in a divorce for the rest of their lives. It's not about fighting. It's about they want what you have now. They want that freedom. They want that new life. They want that new chapter, and they can have it. They can have it. So let's just go to dessert. Let's go to dessert. So Barbara, tell us where life has led you.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, but once I was able to find that joy again, even in the midst of divorce, I was still going through, because my legal battle was like 2.5 years long, something like that. There were still little drips and drabs that were tying up. And I started to date, and I was doing online dating. And then, sometimes I would do it. I looked at it as kind of a social experiment. I was having fun with it because I knew I had chosen wrong the first time. And so for me, it was important. I had a spreadsheet. I had a whole, I was trying to figure out, like, how do I choose right this time? And so through that process, sometimes I would have fun dating. Other times I'd get tired of it and put it on the shelf for a while. And then I met my partner like a year and a half ago, and we had like a whirlwind romance and just basically decided to have a family together. So he met my son, they hit it off and just loved running together right away. And we all would spend time together, and basically over the course of time. So now we welcomed a new little one. You might be able to hear her crying in the background because she's getting hungry.
But we have to see her later.
And so, yeah, now the journey has been bringing these skills to like co-parenting and blending a family and basically moving to our area so we could be a family. And so that comes with a ton of challenges too. I'm not going to be Pollyanna about it and say that it's been easy, but it has been really beautiful. And so to just open up to life again and not feel this like drowning, choking feeling, but just to know that I can be okay on my own, but also like this person adds to my life and he adds to our lives. And he's, an example for my son. And now he's the father of my child. So
honestly, I'm just like beaming. You've been such an example for so many of the mamas to come after, and for them to be able to see how you transformed your life. Like nobody's sitting here saying, it's easy. Healing is easy. We go from here to here. We're like, we forget about everything that happened in between, right? But you really just kept showing up. You really showed up for it. And you held this vision and this belief. You came back to life. You're like, no, this is what I want. I want this. It just fills me to see you as a family hiking and traveling and with this beautiful little baby. It's wonderful.
Thank you. And I had to reorganize my vision of what the future was, because during my marriage, I had a certain vision. I had a certain like financial picture I had put together, and then it was all dismantled because you get two legal teams involved and it's like they put it all in a blender and like dumped half of it on the sidewalk. And so I had to come to terms with what that looked like. I know there was one point where I was on a phone call with you that was separate from our coaching session. I was just like, Kristen, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage because the legal bills had gotten so bad. It was my whole paycheck and then some, and it was depleting all my accounts. So like, yeah, so to feel like somebody has put your life in a blender and then to create a new vision, that was what was needed. And so, yeah, for whoever's watching, you can do it too.
When you look back now, is there anything that you wish you had done differently?
There were times where I wished I had a sharkier lawyer. I told you it felt like we were fighting fire with an abacus because the other side was very nasty and they had a bad reputation as being difficult to work with. And of course, they represented my ex perfectly, just fighting very dirty and acting like it was the O.J. Simpson trial when it was just our divorce. It's like, okay, we don't need to do this in 7 court dates just to answer one question. But they had me on the stand and And then my lawyer had a different approach. She wanted to minimize the damage and work together collaboratively. So that was hard, but in the end, probably not having a sharkier lawyer probably was the right choice. But I was confident in her advice. It felt like we had to make concessions, but as the higher earner, I think that's often going to be the case, especially in a community property state. It's just, there's only so much you can do. And, she's not a magician. She's my legal counselor. So I know that was hard in the middle, feeling like, oh, I wish I could just hire someone to like really feel it, like feel the pain that I'm feeling.
No, that's the anger speaking.
It's the anger speaking. It would probably have cost me more money to do that. And yeah, I mean, I think the way it all worked out, I was able to have the support to make reasonable decisions along the way. And I did bring, sometimes my lawyer would say, okay, well, these are your options and you do need to decide what you want legally speaking. And we could talk through that together. And that was another role you played. It was like, you're not a lawyer, but like, being able to bring it to someone when you're not just bringing it to your friend again for the 50th time, who's the friend is tired of hearing about your divorce, that's the kind of support that I could expect from you.
Well, you know what, also, it's about also helping you get grounded in what are my real motivations here. Because it's really easy to get stuck in the system. And we're not going to like all outcomes. Most likely, we're not going to like most outcomes in divorce. But there's also a price to your freedom. And ultimately, when I speak about winning now, it's not about the other person. It's not necessarily about the division of assets. Winning is what you have. Winning is freedom. Winning is new life, a new lease on life, a new love, a new baby, a new happy family. That's winning. You know, I don't discount how hard it was to drain your life savings and everything that you've, worked so hard for. But it was always about bringing it back to you and reminding you of your motivations and your capabilities and what was possible ahead. And I always said to you, you did it once, you'll do it again, kid. You're really, really capable and have a whole life ahead of you. And the biggest thing is that you have your freedom. You have like the freedom to be you now. I mean, you look like a completely different person now. Really, just absolutely beautiful and relaxed. And I'm not saying, like, again, it's not rainbows and unicorns. Like life has got its stuff. But
the weight of of that relationship and what I was going through was probably showing. Yeah. Can I pause you there? I'm going to get the baby.
Sure.
It needs a little help.
Okay.
Sage.
Oh. So if dessert had a dessert, it would be that sweet little baby that's in your lap right now. She is testament to what is possible when you just open your heart and you heal and you just allow yourself to love again and to trust life. And I think that's just the most beautiful way to end this, because I know the magnificent journey that you have been through and how hard you have worked to get here. And I am just really honored that I got to walk beside you for even just a portion of it. And I think that you're amazing. I think you're an amazing mama and an amazing human being. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story here today, because I know that another woman listening is going to be touched by this. And if she is feeling what you were feeling, knowing that you stood where she stands now, it's going to make a huge difference. That's the power of sharing our stories. That's the power of showing up in group and being witnessed and reflecting and holding each other. So just thank you for that.
Thank you for asking me. And thank you for your support. It's been, and just to get little touch points after the program too. It's so sweet to hear from you from time to time, and your heart's in it. And it's just really nice to know that you and Bill are in the world, and those other ladies that I got to meet along the way are in the world, and everybody's, doing their best.
We shared something sacred. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's episode, but more importantly, for making this time for yourself. If you're a professional, independent mother facing off with divorce, Struggling with your emotions, worried about your kids and your future, and want a better way to navigate it all? I've got 2 ways to completely change the trajectory of your divorce and your life starting today. The first is our free divorce workshop. In this training, you'll learn the 3 steps to get off the emotional roller coaster and take control of your divorce so you can save time, money, and heartache for you and your family. Simply go to intuitivedivorce.com/workshop. And the second way is to book a free strategy call with our team, where we'll dive into your situation, your struggles, what you really want, and outline a path to get you there. For a short video and the booking link, go to intuitivedivorce.com/call. Check it out, and I'll see you inside. Now I have a favor to ask you, Mama. If you enjoyed this conversation and were inspired in your own divorce, please subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss future juicy talks. And I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review so together we can help other mamas walking in the same shoes.